Hello everyone! And today, we are back for another Loomian Legacy Top 5 video. And we're going to be ranking all of the Varis evolutions from worst to best. Some of the Varis are really good, while some of them are horrible. So, with that out of the way, let's head right onto this list. So, number 10 onto this list is going to be Hydrolin. Yep, this is by far the worst Varis in the game, and it's not even close. This thing is awful, but let's get some of the positives out of the way first. It has 107 speed. That is a decent speed stat. It does technically have priority. It is a mixed attacker, so you don't know which tank can go in on it. And that's kind of it. Everything else about Hydrolin is really bad. It has one of the worst adaptive assault forms. It has awful coverage. It has air coverage for the range and grass coverage for the melee. You have Slash as another coverage move. Like, wow. Riveting. Awesome. And this thing has no bulk. And when I mean no bulk, I mean this thing can get OHKO'd in with a neutral hit. And it doesn't hit hard at all. It can barely OHKO an M-bit. Yes, an M-bit. A water type can barely OHKO a pre-evolved first evolution fire type. Yeah, Hydrolin is really bad. And it's by far the worst Varis in the game. And I'll even go as far to say that it's a bottom 3 Loomian in the game. And it's definitely in the bottom 5. This Loomian is awful. No other words around that. Number 9 onto this list is going to be Venelin. It's honestly a miracle that Venelin is not on the bottom, because this is the typeless type Varis. And then Hydrolin came into play and sucked even more. But Venelin does have some things. It actually has 110 melee attack. It can actually hit hard. It actually has good abilities. It has boast. It has vengeance. They're both abilities that Venelin can use. And it can actually get utilized decently, unlike Hydrolin. This Loomian still isn't good. It's still really bad. It has no coverage, but it has stuff. It can hit decently hard. It has priority. It has setup. Heck, you can run Body Crash. And I do think eventually this Loomian will get Rogue Assault, so it will actually be a little bit better in the future. This Loomian is still very bad, and it's still one of the worst Varis in the game, but it kind of makes sense. This is the typeless type Varis after all, and typeless types will not get another secondary typing on them, so unfortunately Venelin is going to probably stay at the bottom of this list, but the fact that it's not at the very bottom is a miracle, and it's really good for Venelin. Despite that though, it's a decent typeless type, but it's not a very good Varis, and that's why it's only number 9 on the list. Number 8 onto this list was really close, but I decided to go with Buzzling. It was very close. Number 8 through 6 was really close, but I decided to go Buzzling in the 8th spot. This thing has some good stuff. I mean, it has 101 speed. It doesn't hit as hard as Venelin, but with the Vigorous boost and Volcanic Ash, this thing can hit really hard, and it has a very good adaptive assault. It's one of the better adaptive assaults compared to the other Loomians. It also has good coverage. It has toxic coverage and air coverage. This is the first Loomian on the list that actually has decent coverage. Not only that, with the Volcanic Ash, you can actually use Barter and stun melee attackers, which does give Buzzling some use. It even has Tribute, which is awesome. The thing is, that's all that Buzzling has. It can be very good with Marksman and Buck Up, but there are no moves that can increase your crit chance, so if you use Buck Up, you're never going to get the guaranteed crit, so it just isn't worth using. Not to mention, Stratosaur is a nightmare. You can't really beat Stratosaur with Buzzling unless they are already Soul Bursted. And once the Stratosaur is Soul Bursted, it's 119 speed, outspeeds your 101 speed. So, it definitely struggles, and this is definitely not a very good Varis, but it has some stuff. It hits decently hard, and has decent coverage, which is better than the other 2 Varis on the list. It's pretty solid, and that's all I can really say about Buzzling. It deserves number 8 on this list. Number 7 onto this list is going to be Venelin. What a huge missed opportunity for Venelin. It's a pure brawler type that hits extremely hard. Ace is one of the best abilities in the game, and with 130 melee attack, this thing is the ultimate wall breaker. But that's if it can actually hit the opposing Loomian neutrally. That's the problem. Brawler Fire is not good in this meta. When you consider the fact that there are a ton of bulky water types, and a lot of water types that can soak Wrestlin's hits, that definitely doesn't make it good for Wrestling. You can never really fully utilize Ace. Not to mention that you only have fire coverage, so it doesn't really even hit that hard. You can't hit Bar Blast. You can't hit Gargolem. You can't even hit a lot of Spirit types. So, yeah, Wrestling gets walled by a ton of Loomians. You're always going to have at least one Loomian on your team that will wall Wrestling. And that's why Wrestling is very low. It should be the ultimate wall breaker. It should be amazing. But with Ace and with it only being a pure brawler type, doesn't make Wrestling good. It's decent, and it can definitely be very threatening in certain situations, but overall, Wrestling falls short compared to other wall breakers in the game. Number 6 onto this list is going to be Kleelyn. Yes, Kleelyn is above Wrestling, and there are a couple reasons why. This thing actually has coverage. So have Wrestling coverage, but with Ancient Stab. That is so much better. You can hit pretty much anything in the game with Kleelyn. Not to mention, you have 137 melee attack and Hasty, which increases your attack even more. That's amazing. This is probably a top 5 Vari, but that's if it can actually hit its attack. With Hasty, it has a chance to miss. And trust me, Kleelyn will miss a lot more than you want it to. I had situations where Kleelyn's missed 2 in a row and even 3 in a row sometimes, and it's annoying. I have heard that this Loomian is going to get sharpened in the future, and man, it needs sharpened bad. This thing just misses his attacks, and it's just not worth using a wall breaker if it's not going to guarantee to hit its attack. This Loomian is very controversial. This could be number 8 really easily just for it missing alone. But I put it at number 6 because it has a lot of potential. And unlike the other Varis on the list, this Loomian can actually be very dangerous and can be a really good wall breaker. That's why it's at number 6. We're into our top 5 now. And number 5 onto this list is Venelin. Venelin has risen a lot because of its brand new move, Fade Away. This is a spirit type that has fast pivot now. And a lot of people are running specialty boots with Venelin. And this thing is awesome with it. Fade Away is the move Venelin needed. So before it got Fade Away, I would probably put it as like the 7th or 6th ranked Vari. Like, it's still decent. It's still a very good spirit type, but other spirit types are better than it. Now, Venelin has something that could stand up compared to other spirit types. It has extremely fast pivot while hitting extremely hard. Not to mention, with boots, this is actually an amazing lead with Dazzling Barrage, meaning you can actually break clutch plushies. And as you can see, the Fade Away boot set can actually beat Soul Burst Metronet with Fade Away. That's awesome. You can have this thing get momentum, switch into your bug type, and that Soul Burst Metronet is no more. This is definitely a top 5 Vari, and it can also be used as a mixed attacker, which can make it even more dangerous. It is super frail, but that doesn't matter in the long run as it deserves number 5 on the list. Number 4 onto this list is going to be Venelin. Wow, Venelin has fallen. Well, it's still a very good range tank, and it's definitely one of the best toxic type tanks in the game. I mean, it has 122 range defense and 83 health. It's really good still, but it has fallen recently, and it's mainly because of all the other tanks that were added in the game. Gargolem Defense Form is awesome right now. Gasstroke just got a Soul Burst, and it's awesome. And also, let's just say a certain other Vari might do Venelin's job better. But Venelin does have some perks. It's a toxic type. It can get rid of Poison Barbs, which is awesome. It can poison the opposing Loomian. It can throw Barter Heavy Shackles. It can click Rejuvenate. It has Mud Spatter for coverage. This Loomian is really good still, and even though it has fallen recently, Venelin is still a reliable range tank that can be very annoying to beat. Mainly because it's very bulky on the range side, and its melee defense isn't terrible. If you invest into that melee defense, you can make this a really good overall tank and utilize Toxic Touch. this is still one of the better range tanks in all of Loomian Legacy, despite not being a top 3 Vari anymore. But the other 3 Varis are just a little bit better than Venelin, and that's why Venelin does fall short of the top 3 on this list. Number 3 onto this list is going to be Zeppelin. A lot of people might be shocked that Zeppelin is this high, but I have my reasonings. This is the best stall breaker in all of Loomian Legacy. Has 123 range attack, has a pretty good speed stat, has Resonate, has Provoke, has Gust, has Mudslide, and Peace of Mind. The only thing that Zeppelin is really missing is Purge. That's really the only move Zeppelin is really missing. But other than that, Zeppelin is awesome. Has decent melee bulk, hits extremely hard with Turbulent, and while it doesn't have the best offensive typing, it doesn't have to be. It could still hit really hard, and Mudslide to get rid of barbs is awesome. And if you don't want to rely on not hitting those air types for Mudslide to get rid of barbs, you could just use Gust, get a speed boost, and then you could potentially sweep the opposing team. You also have Provoke to stop barb setters for setting barbs up altogether. Like I said, this is one of the best stall breakers in all of Loomian Legacy. And it definitely shows in a lot of these battles. It can get rid of barbs, it can break through range tanks, and it could be very dangerous wall breaker on top of that. Zeppelin has a lot going for it, and while it isn't the flashiest Loomian, it definitely deserves to be in the top 3 of this list. Number 2 onto this list is going to be Tundran. A lot of people might be shocked that Tundran is this high on the list, but this is a reliable melee tank that can hit extremely hard with Body Crash, and it also has Rejuvenate. This is still one of the best melee tanks in all of Loomian Legacy, ladies and gentlemen. Even with Obsidian being a thing, this Loomian still holds its own. Body Crash is awesome, and having Bulk Up and Rejuvenate makes this thing even better. That's something that Tundran has over Obsidian. It's a more reliable melee tank when you use Rejuvenate. Yes, I think Obsidian is still the better Loomian because it has Primal Slash, hits Spirit types, and it also has Beast Slumber that can be better in certain situations. But overall, I think Tundran, for this list, deserves to be number 2. And there is definitely an argument that you could use a Tundran over an Obsidian, and it would work really well. Not to mention, Tundran is really good with every water type in the game. You could have this with a Bar Blast, and that defensive core is OP. Good luck being a Tundran and a Bar Blast at the same time. Tundran is awesome. And the only reason why it is not number 1 on the list is because 1, Obsidian is definitely a better melee tank than Tundran, and 2, the number 1 Vari is just a little bit better than Tundran. The best Vari evolution in the entire game is Hydrolin. There's no shockers here. This is miles above every Vari in the game. It's the pure fire type. It has Fanning Flame. This loses its air weakness and makes it its strength. Not only is it just neutral to air, but you gain a +1 ranged attack. Yes, +1 ranged attack while hit by an air type move. Not to mention, it will also activate your Rageful Plushie, meaning your Hydrolin, your bulky Hydrolin, is all of a sudden a wall breaker. Not to mention, it has Peace of Mind. It has Kleelyn coverage. It has Rejuvenate. It has great range bulk. It can have decent melee bulk. And since it's a pure fire type, it can also get rid of icicle traps. This Loomian has it all. And while it does have a couple weaknesses, like being a little bit weaker on the melee side, and also not having the best coverage and suffering from 4-move syndrome, if you can have all those moves, this Loomian is by far the best Vari in the game, and it's definitely a top 10, maybe even top 5 Loomian in the entire game. There's no contest. Hydrolin is by far the best Vari evolution in the game. And here it is, Hydrolin, the best Vari evolution in all of Loomian Legacy. I hope you guys enjoyed this list of me ranking all the Varis. If you disagree with my list and think any Vari should be higher or lower, please tell me in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see y'all all later. Bye-bye!